Hello, and welcome back to the Rough Cut Diamond Mines, the place that I go to find the rough ideas that we can then turn into something a little more polished. I am your guide, Dreamscript. We're now in part 3 of our Cursed Relics Art Challenge video series, and if you don't know, that means there are 2 other videos for this series for you to check if you want. Obviously, there are no requirements to watch those other videos to enjoy this one, but I will be making references to them throughout this one. I mean, it's a series, there's definitely going to be a playlist for easy viewing, but you don't have to if you don't feel like it. No pressure. But never mind all that now. We need to get into the details of our third prompt. Day 3 on the list is an arrow. And yes, I know that in the first prompt, the sticker that I used had an arrow in it already, and while it would be really cool to come up with an arrow that did something like transform whatever or whomever into a rabbit, or an undead rabbit, that would be fun too. But I made myself a rule that I would not repeat any of the stickers. And besides, there was already a sticker that I felt was a lot more interesting for this concept. And here it is. Now, if you're any level of internet degenerate like I am, then you may have heard of a little literary trope/genre thing called Hanahake disease, and it refers to a purely fictional, hopefully, disease that causes someone with unrequited feelings of love to start hacking up flowers because they're growing in the victim's lungs. Now, that said, there's literally no way I could not do something with that theme. There's no way. I have to. I mean, you could even argue that Hanahake is, in and of itself, a type of curse, depending on how much drama you want to inject into your story. Though if you're interested in learning more about the history of Hanahake in media use, I will be linking a fun video by Chloe Does Things in the comments section on the subject. And if you haven't figured it out by now, this is going to be another go ham type picture. The flower aesthetic basically demands it. However, I still need to find out what kind of severity we're going to be doing here. Let's go to the wheel. Spin it! Ooh, debilitating major. Oh, this is actually perfect for this. For me, major debilitating things are primarily illnesses: cancer, bone disease, immunity deficiencies, chronic fatigue, and various kinds of mental illnesses. These are ailments that can be lived with long term, but they are incredibly difficult to do so, even with effective treatment. And depending on how long you've been suffering from the curse, it could eat away at you, similarly to how the slow, deadly curse does, but without the admittedly hollow comfort that there will be an end to it all. It's just something that can trap you inside your own body and everything that body is putting you through. Important side note. While I do enjoy reading and writing about these kinds of tragic things in stories, conditions like these are very serious, and in the cases where they are the ones that don't have many, if any, outwardly physical symptoms, they truly are very hard for anyone to live with. Some of them have very little form of treatment that doesn't take years and years of things like medication and therapy to become any level of manageable. So I just want to say that before continuing with this series, please know that I respect the trials of anyone living with any kind of illness, be it visible or especially invisible illnesses. I might not always be able to understand the true depths of what you're going through, but believe me when I say you deserve to be able to live in a way that makes your life easier without anyone judging you or trying to take away your independence. Lots of love, everybody. Okay, with all that serious stuff out of the way, let's make a cursed artifact. First things first, I do want to mention that yes, I did accidentally forget a small portion of the process. So if you notice a jump in the time lapse, that's probably why. I also don't really feel bad about that because this one still ended up being over 5 hours of work, even without that bit. Do you have any idea how long this took to render? Just to be able to time-lapse it properly. My poor computer. Oh, I spent way too long drawing and arranging all the flowers. But it came out really good too, so I honestly don't have any regrets. Regarding the drawing itself, though, I thought it would be interesting to depict the various stages of this cursed item's effect. It being an arrow means that this is basically a transmissible curse, but only to the ones struck by the arrow. And yes, I will agree to any comments pointing out how much more time I spent on the effects of the arrow rather than on the arrow itself. I definitely got carried away with the flowers. I mean, you can even see a little bit of Silent Hill F inspiration in the final stages here, which, by the way, is anyone else stupid hyped for that game to come out? Because I know I am, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I want to see this game so bad. I can't wait. Also, in my defense, this is the most flowers, both in the amount and the variety, that I've ever put into a singular picture. So let me have this! One thing that I do need to comment on is because I secretly, not so secretly, enjoy the old stupid joke about Hanahaki disease, how it's just the maidenless disease, and in the case of this particular artifact, the original patient is making that everyone else's problem. As do many people who purposely create cursed items tend to, now that I think about it. But I still think it's funny. I'm a terrible person, I know, but I think that's everything about this drawing. To fully understand what I mean about the artifact itself, let's finish things up here and join me for the story of all this item has done in its long, unnatural history. There is a valley, surrounded on all sides with dark, strange woods. It's a place that is lush with floral of all kinds that grow strong and bloom in vivid colors. Yet, despite all this, it is a deeply haunted place. Several years ago, the place fell under attack by an unstable druid. They had been said to suffer from the pains of their love rejecting them, and in a fit of madness, the druid created a plague that they then rained down on the defenseless people. They made easily hundreds, no, thousands of arrows forged with thorns, spores, and some dark, unknown magics that they then rained upon the town, initially killing countless people. But they later found that the countless more injured, those who originally survived, were the ones who suffered the most. The symptoms of the plague were subtle and slow to take hold, but it was always the same. A small cough was the first sign, just a small discomfort in the back of the throat. But then it grew into not being able to catch your breath, labored breathing, and frequent coughing fits, even among those most physically fit. It's after a few weeks of this stage that the first signs that this is something more than a common ailment began to surface. Quite literally, as the area where the arrows originally struck began to develop green, creeping lines just under the skin that twist and coil around themselves. Like vines? Or some kind of root system? And then the first petals start to come up in the coughing fits. The flowers themselves seem to be the same every time. Daisies, lavenders, daffodils, thistles, and roses. The colors sometimes changed, but the flowers themselves were always those. Some argue if these were flowers significant either to the druid or their unrequited love. But whomever they were special to before, they are now the dread of these townfolk. The cough never faded, and the longer time went on, the stronger the smell of flowers grew around the people themselves. This stage lasted for quite some time before the next one emerged, and that was when things became more and more of a struggle. Those vines that could be seen beneath the skin start breaking through the surface. Surprisingly, there is no blood in the process, but it is still a very painful thing, as the vines themselves are thick, covered in tiny buds and thorns. The vines grow, clinging to the limbs of their victim, making it harder for them to move with their weight. Those vines continue to grow and spread across the body as more and more time passed. Those buds began to open and eventually bloom into fully exposed flowers. And though there is still beauty in these flowers, their display is also the sign that the victim is beyond all saving. Those that could afford it had discovered that the services of skilled healers and mages could in fact remove the curse causing the disease in any of the earlier stages. But once the flowers reach full bloom on an infected, not even the most powerful of magics can remove it. The roots have burrowed bone deep into the person by then, becoming part of them and feeding on them now. To destroy the flowers is to destroy the person themselves at this point, a fate that those with any lingering faith would never consider. The final stage happens in the last years of the victim's life, when they are weighed down with so many flowers and vines they can no longer rise from their beds. Their hands and feet begin to disintegrate, withering away from within until all that remains are mushy lumps of flesh of the digits they once were. And once those are completely unusable, the roots from the flowers and vines begin to breach through those lumps and burrow deep, deep down into the ground around them. The roots fully anchor the victim to the spot, leaving them more immobile than ever before. And then the flowers begin to grow directly from the victim's face and mouth. Those that were close enough during the final moments say that when the last cough issues from the victim, it is with a large cloud of pollen, dark, yet gleaming with blood as if it is from the depths of their lungs. A cloud of pollen that, if breathed in, some fear may carry the cursed plague on to others. To everyone who watched this far into the video, thanks for sticking around. I will, of course, be continuing this series with more speed draws and stories of these cursed relics. So I will see you all next time. Until then, sweet dreams, and here's to all the little things that bring out the magic in you.